What's up, dads? It's your boy Big Day, back with another episode of Culture Dads, Age of Sword and Cassette. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, Dave. Just, I've actually been cranking out quite a few writing jobs recently. It's, I've just got one done that's like, it's been on my agenda for a little while, and it's nice to kind of bang that one out. I'm writing another intro for one of the upcoming Imperium books, and I don't usually do that. I try not to be honest. I would rather it be like all the books are introduced by guys in our scene or that are like otherwise experts in their field or whatever. Yeah. This is something I know something about, so I was able to do it and everything like that. I think I'm probably the right guy for that job for this particular book. But the only other one I've done it for is the Folktales book. Which was pretty cool. That was a really fun essay to write as well. So, but it's nice to get it done. For some reason, we've left all the hard shit until like the books that are hard to put together until like right now. So it's been a bit hard to get things out the door. But yeah, that's another one checked off the list. So yeah, that's what I'm up to these days.
There you go. You're a good writer. Your intro for the Folktales book is, tremendous. You should do more. You should like export some writing. Get some motherfuckers to hire you to write for their books, like outside of Imperium. And then also they should pay you. Guys, if you're listening, you want Big Mike to work for you, he needs like $2,000. You got to pay him like $2,000 and he'll write you an intro. It's going to be the best intro you ever seen.
Oh, yes. Yes. No, I'm a hired gun, but I don't work for free. So, yeah. But I love it, man. I love writing, and I kind of wish I had more time. Obviously, I write the Substack every week, and I've been writing my book, and now this intro. It's just been too much. But I love doing it. I kind of wish I could do it full time, but, the show must go on. Imperium needs to put out books, and this is what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. So what did we... This was kind of something you wanted to yak about today. You want to talk to guys about, and here we're probably going to hit on some stuff. I want to throw out some stuff with this that I wish somebody told me, right? So kind of give us an overview of what you want to talk about today.
Yeah. So I was listening. I'm sure some of the audience has also probably listened to this as well. Dave did an impromptu stream on Telegram a week ago now, at time of recording, about his ADHD. I forget what it was. There was like some particular thing somebody said that like kind of prompted you to do that stream. But I'm really glad you did, because I mean, bro, you talked for like 2 hours and then took questions, and it was like compelling listening all the way through. Now I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about some of the same ground or whatever, and we won't cover all the same ground and everything. But, I thought that it was really good. Like, I really enjoyed listening to you talk about your, just basically sort of dealing with like the cards that you've been dealt in life, right? Like, because we all have shit that we have to deal with. We all have personality flaws. We all have things that we wish were different about ourselves. But like, the difference between a successful person and somebody that just kind of coasts through life, or maybe kind of flops at life a little bit, is being able to deal with those flaws, because every single person has them, even highly talented people. I mean, especially highly talented people, because like, look, I used to work in the music industry. I was a musician before that. I got to know a lot of guys. I got to know a lot of very, very talented musicians. I surrounded myself with the best of the best. And a lot of these people were completely broken. They had severe problems with substance abuse, problems with relationships, problems with, just being functional human beings, showing up for rehearsal, or like, getting to the studio on time and shit like that. Like, just like the most things that like you would think would be like everybody's got that stuff nailed down, right? And I think part of it is like in the case of musicians is a bit of an excuse. It's kind of like it's a part that a lot of musicians kind of play because of the the meme of the troubled artist and everything like that. It's like a suit that people kind of like slip into, so to speak. But and I mean, there is something to it though. Like people who are high in trait openness, people who are very creative, tend to not be very well organized. They tend to kind of like their personal lives are a bit of a mess, and even the people like that we think of as like famous musicians who were kind of a mess were at least able to get their shit together enough to be able to, say for musicians, like go on tour and like write songs regularly and like do things and, just they were able to do at least the minimum to be able to succeed in life. Like a lot of people think that, famous artists succeed because like somebody comes and like plucks them from out of obscurity and just kind of like all they have to do is just write songs or paint pictures or whatever. It's not like that. And the life of an artist is a fucking hard grind. And people who succeed only succeed because they're persistent, even the talented ones. So a lot of what I saw in the music industry and as a musician in a local scene was that a lot of the people who did end up going on to succeed and having music careers were the people who were B+ talents, but who were like very persistent, hardworking, and had like other things going for them. And the people who are like A+ talents very often got absolutely fucking nowhere because they couldn't deal with their own flaws. They couldn't like work around all the shit that's like wrong with them. They, because of the artist thing kind of expected other people to come in and deal with that for them. So I thought that it might be a good thing to talk a little bit about, our own personal flaws. Like I'll talk, at length about the shit that's wrong with me. and then we can, just give just open a conversation about like how to deal with this sort of thing, because it's very under discussed. It's the kind of thing that like, I see so much talent in the nationalist scene that goes completely unrealized because I think that, guys don't have this kind of nailed down. There's a maturity thing, comes with age in some cases, of being able to work around, to deal with the hand that you've been dealt. So I thought that this would be a good conversation to have. And, I found, Dave, your stream on that quite compelling. So I figured that we'd expand upon that a bit.
Yeah, especially, man, musicians are, oh my God, they're just fucking
they're the worst
human beings. They're the absolute worst. Especially if you go out looking, this is something I learned real quick, is that you shouldn't go out looking for the best, the best guy. You should look for the most reliable guy.
Absolutely.
The most reliable guy is, he can be serviceable, and you guys can do, because the band being tight is more important than having like virtuosic shit, right? It's just the way that it is. If you have, so I had my last band I played in that it fell apart because we couldn't find reliable musicians. We had one guy that was, we actually had two fucking guys that were tremendous lead guitar players. This is how I've always done it, right? I do vocals and play rhythm guitar and I write songs. And then I find a stellar lead player to kind of pick up the slack for me. I say, here's our song. Let's add in some of your flavor where you want to make it a little bit, because they always do that. They're like, we got to make it more difficult here. We got to make it more interesting is what they always, it needs to become more interesting. They'll make the riff more complicated for that. And then I'm like, okay, here's your spot to solo, right? And then just do you. And that works for me, right? The problem is that probably 70% of guys that are lead guitar players that are really, really good and really blow you away at the tryout end up being fucking useless. We had one guy in particular who's one of the greatest guitar players I've ever seen. This guy was off the charts good. He would never show up on time. Sometimes he would show up drunk. Sometimes he would completely forget. There were times that he would, like, first of all, this guy would never even rehearse. He would change his mind about his solo like mid-song and not want to play it. He would just like, I beg, why didn't you play the solo? He's like, I hate that solo now. He's like, all right, well, fucking write a new solo and play that one. Like, play something. Yeah. It was just like dealing. He's almost like a child, right? He was almost like a child. And, you know, I'm not trying to beat the guy up. He is fucking trim. You sit down, you listen to this guy play, you'll be like, holy crap. Why aren't you fucking famous? Well, the reason that he's famous is because he's a fucking retard. You know?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
why he's not famous.
That's
But
it.
that's something I've always dealt with. And especially in music, I think I talked about this in the stream. I have a kind of a friend, an acquaintance over the internet, and I've known him for quite a while. He watches my show and everything. He's an older guy. I think he's in his 50s. And he is a very, very successful music guy. He was in a touring band in the 80s and 90s, made some pretty good money, plays multiple instruments, has a studio now. That's what he does. His kids are all musicians. He's the man in this regard. And he saw my song Cosmic Garden that I put out there. I'm the first guy to tell you I'm not a very good guitar player. I'm kind of a stinky musician. I'm not the man. You know what I mean? I like to write music. I like to sing. I like to play guitar. I like to do it, but I will never stand up and say I'm anything, right? I'm just having fun. Just trying to squeeze out some half decent songs. And he heard it. He's like, yo, I heard your song Cosmic Garden. I was like, oh no. This guy's about, because he's one of those dudes that he knows
his shit. He knows what he's talking about.
He knows his shit. He knows what he's talking about. And he's one of those guys that's like a natural teacher that whenever he hears anything, he gives you the rundown. And he's dealt with so much music in his life. He's not scared to tell you whether or not you suck. He will be like, you probably shouldn't have posted this song. It's not very good. It's something that he probably would say, right? So he tells you, he goes, I heard your song. And I'm like, oh shit. And he goes, he gives me a bunch of critique, but he's like, that was a really cool song. That was a good song. Very catchy. I was like, whoa, like fucking, why do you mean it wasn't? And I was like, dude, I just like rearranged some Black Sabbath riffs and like wrote some new shit on it. And I used a fucking pre-made drum track. He's like, that doesn't matter. He's like, let me tell you, what matters in the music industry, is making good music. If you make a song that sounds good and it gets caught in people's heads and it's good music, then you are a good musician. He's like, all this other stuff doesn't matter. He's like, here's the main thing about music is that he goes, and this is what he tells me. He goes, I'm not Richie Blackmore. He's like, I've never been a really great guitar player. He's like, I'm a medium guitar player. He's like, I'm a medium bass player. I'm even worse drummer. He's like, I'm medium everything. He's like, but I have hustled. Hustle is more important than talent. He's like, the reason I got on the road is because I found a bunch of bands in the classifieds that were looking for studio musicians. And I went in and persisted that you let me play on the road with you. And he's like, I went in and I played and they weren't that impressed, but I called them and kept showing up, harassing them, giving them my demos of what I can do and everything like that. And he's like, eventually one of them said, okay, they were desperate and I had an opportunity. And he's like, I went on tour with them. I didn't have a single drink. I didn't party at all. I sat and practiced the song every single night after the show. I went to bed early. And I kept my clothes clean. I didn't touch any drugs, and I crushed it. And I eventually became part of that band. And I was like, fuck, that's legit. You know what I mean? Hustle. You got to have some talent. You can't be without talent. But hustle is more important than talent, is what this guy says. And I believe him. Because there are so many industries out there that how many times do you're like, how the fuck did this guy get anywhere? He's not that great. You know why? How he got that? How he got there? You know, some people say, oh, he's astroturfed or whatever, and sometimes they are astroturfed. But a lot of times it's because they did a million fucking shows. It's because they made the best music that they could with their abilities, and they spammed it. They got on every stage that would let them get on. They harassed everybody that had an open phone line. They stayed late and sold tapes and handed out tapes or handed out CDs, and they were in the mix, and they got contacts. They like forced themselves into different circles and made friends and made networks and connections, and they just like they wanted it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, persistence is an important thing. It might be the most important thing. This is something that I've been very conscious to impress upon my kids, is not giving up. That you pick yourself up, you know, I mean, they like, you know, one of my kids is the like alpha personality, and the other one is like the wallflower. And it's very important for both of them, but especially for the wallflower to be like, you know, when life doesn't go your way, the important thing is that you know, you have a little moment, then you dust yourself off, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, get back on that bike, you keep pedaling, right? Because that is how people succeed in life. It's like, I mean, life is fairly long, like 70 years or 80 years or whatever it is. That's a long time. There's a lot of time to be able to do something in that time, if and only if you persist and keep going. And you know, it's about covering, you know, a lot of ground over a long period of time. Like there's a lot of truth in that parable of Aesop's fable. It's so cliche, you know, the tortoise and the hare, right? Of that, it slow and steady wins the race. That really is, there's a lot of truth to that. That's why it's so famous. And it's about being able to do a job. It's about being able to be, you know, a good dad, or to perform in your career day after day after day. And it's also about being a likable person. It's about, you know, you don't have to be a doormat. You don't have to sort of like, you know, give up your entire personality or anything, but a huge amount of success is about like just not being annoying, about being around people and having them not want to strangle themselves, you know, because you're annoying or you're abrasive or you're constantly challenging them. Like I'm in a position now with Imperium where, and you know, it's been like this for a little while, like we have people who work for us, and I've been very, very choosy. It's taken me ages to assemble the people around me that I have. And I've just been waiting basically for people who A, are extremely talented, and B, are like willing to hustle. And that is a very rare combination. If you have 80% talent and 110% hustle, that is like, you are just going to smash it. Your life is going to be a raging success. I mean, barring any disasters. Thankfully, I have guys around me that are more talented even than that. But a lot of it comes down to being able to get along with people. Like there's so it's such a common thing for people who are like super talented, like they're Photoshop artists or they're musicians or whatever they, you know, creative skill they have, but they have zero social skills, and being around them is just like your asshole puckers up, you know, tighter than the snare drum constantly, because they're just like weird and off-putting and like hard to deal with, and you never know what they're going to say, or it's embarrassing or whatever, and you just don't want to be around that. But it doesn't matter how talented they are. It's like, you know, part of being successful in life is just being able to get along with people and being normal, not putting people on edge, especially in a creative environment, right?
Yeah.
So that's a huge part of it, but also it's about being able to do a job or perform a task consistently over time. Back when I was a music producer, I used to listen to this guy's podcast, and it was like kind of before there were podcasts even. It was this guy who was an anonymous music producer. He called himself Slipperman, and it was later like revealed who he was, that he's like, produced some, bands that a lot of our guys have like listened to and everything like that. But he was like, kept himself anonymous for years and nobody knew who he was, but he was like this hilarious guy. I mean, anybody, if you're just listening, if you want like, compelling listening, just go listen to the Slipperman, like podcast. It wasn't even a podcast at the time. Like I say, it was like he would like record these like 15-minute segments of just like ranting about like something to do with audio engineering, and it was fucking hilarious. Like the guy is super funny. Like it's this Jersey guy, and he's a super funny dude. But one of the things that I got out of that is that what makes a great record producer is not being able to sit in your bedroom and, over the course of 2 years, crank out a masterpiece. It's being able to go into the studio and crank out record after record after record, week after week, month after month, every day, and be able to do this shit regularly. That's what a real super talented producer is. It's the kind of person who's able to do this stuff on the regular, right? So, and I mean, okay, so this is not an episode necessarily about like creative talent or whatever. I'm sure we'll do an episode on being in a band or being a creative like musician at some point. But to kind of like bring it back to the thing about dealing with your flaws, you can really get away with being not as talented as everyone else if you're just able to do that kind of stuff. If you're consistent, if you put people at ease, or at least if you don't put them on edge, if you're hardworking and diligent, that goes a long, long way. But there are some things that like each of us has that are like a major personality flaw. And I think back to, of all things, the first episode, I believe it was, of the series Dexter. Now, I haven't watched TV in a long, long time. And I'm sort of remembering this like, 15 years on or whatever it was. But as I recall, that TV show was such that, the plot basically is that you have this kid who like witnesses his mom get like heinously murdered, and he's traumatized by it naturally. And then obviously he's orphaned. And then later on he gets adopted by this cop. And the cop, being someone who's like worked with a lot of traumatized people and been around this kind of shit, he kind of sees the telltale signs that this kid's going to turn into a sociopath or a psychopath or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so what the cop does is he raises him in such a way to kind of take that energy of like, someone that's like wants to kill all the time and direct it towards productive means. And so in the case of this show, it's, he kind of makes him, channel his energy towards vigilantism, right? Like towards killing people who fucking deserve it, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is obviously like a fictional show. If I thought really much harder about it, I could probably come up with a cool historical episode or like mythic episode where something similar happens or whatever. But it does kind of illustrate a point where some of what being successful in life is all about is realizing like what your flaws are and then compensating for them, sort of like taking something that is a weakness and arranging your life kind of around that in order to either turn that to your advantage or to, at the very least, make it less of a disadvantage for yourself, right? So it's kind of structuring your life around it so as to be able to not have to deal with that problem all the time or minimize the hardship of that problem. So, yeah, that's one of the things that I was like really getting out of your Dave, your stream that you did about ADHD. So do you want to kind of say a little bit about that for guys that didn't catch that stream, about how you kind of deal with that and everything?
Yeah. So, it was a big stream, so I'll try to sum it up. So ADHD, first of all, when people hear ADHD, they think it's a big joke, right? They think, because for a few reasons. Firstly, because it was so ridiculously overdiagnosed in the 90s. If you're a kid of the 90s, just about any kid that like misbehaved in school, they put them on Ritalin, right? It was a big scam. That's one reason. Another reason is a lot of it gets, downplayed. And another reason is now that the mental illness brigade now gets virtue points for saying that they have mental illness that they self-diagnose themselves with. There's a lot of people like, oh, I have ADHD, I have ADD, I have ADD, and it has become like a thing that people say, like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't pay, I'm sorry, I screwed this up, ADD, I mean, it's just like a thing that they say, but in reality, only a small portion of people have it, and it's overwhelmingly men. And because of this, you don't really start to take it seriously until you become an adult, and it really starts to affect your life. And you're like, "Fuck, there's something wrong with me." Right? I was this same way. I've always known that I was diagnosed with it, XYZ, and it wasn't until I got with my wife and had kids, and it actually wasn't until like a few years ago I started think about it seriously and do some more research into it and try to understand how I am and why I am and all this kind of stuff. So when we talk about ADHD, we have to kind of define what it means. It used to just be called ADD, and then they changed to ADHD, and they say that it is a behavioral disorder. Well, what does that mean? A behavioral disorder is just a behavior that they now deem out of the accepted order. So that's why they say that various things are all mental illnesses now. They say, oh, racism is a mental illness, and misogyny is a mental illness, and that pretty much everything they don't like, they have made into a pathology, right? And the grounds for this is that they say that these things are the evidence for this is the behavioral disorders involved. They're like, well, modern society thinks that having discriminations or views that men and women are different, this is some sort of behavioral disorder because it's out of the order that we have said is now accepted. So they take behavioral disorders and then they say, well, these behavioral disorders compounded make this mental illness. And then the step from there is pretty spooky. Then they're like, oh, well, now we need to treat this. And let me tell you, as a kid that went through, my mom bought into this shit hook, line, and sinker. I went to shrinks that doped me up all kinds of fucked up drugs. Like, it was bad. It screwed me up as a young kid. As a young kid, I'm like on all these fucking different things. So I'm on, what is essentially meth, which is these Adderall, Ritalin, etc. And then that's making me weird. Right? I'm not eating right. I have kind of, it was just bad. So I started to, and on top of it, my parents didn't have the self-awareness to see, oh, well, maybe our disaster home life is affecting this kid. He's kind of upset and depressed and everything. Let's put him on fucking Zoloft, right? So I'm on all of these goofy pharmaceuticals, screwing my head up, making me act weird. And they're like, this is just his fucking mental. No, you guys are fucking, I was completely normal. I have this thing, this ADHD thing, but there's nothing wrong with me. You guys, I'm just a kid, and you guys are doping me up with all this dumb shit at the behest of these fucking fugazi experts, right? These fake fucking psychiatrists and shit, right? They're just looking to make a buck off of putting people on pills. So ADHD, effectively, long story short, is not truly a behavioral disorder. It is a behavioral and mental trait. It is a psychological trait that we inherited from archaic gene sources, either Cro-Magnon or Neanderthal or something like that. We got these from these ancestors, or even elsewhere. But that's the going theory. And it's pretty much it's a grug trait. It's an archaic grug trait that a certain amount of the population had. Some people call it hunter brain because it's pretty plausible that people with ADHD once upon a time were like hunters. That's what their job was. Your brain is just wired to do that, right? You're very present minded. You have time blindness. You are very, very much victim of. Not I don't want to say victim. You're at the mercy of the stimulation that you have in life. You go from one thing to one thing to one thing to one thing. You're an accelerated learner. You're an out of the box problem solver. It's just the way that your brain works. And this is probably what it was Hunter's brain. The problem with Hunter's brain, or abstract thought process, or whatever you want to call it, is that it is obsolete in today's society, where you have all of these different things you have to micromanage, all of these different tediums that you have to pay attention to, all this bean counting that you have to do yourself. You're not just like a hunter that walks around in the woods or in the plains looking for a fucking mammoth or antelope or like whatever deer or whatever. You're not a hunter. You can't. I mean, you can go out hunting, but that's not the same thing as back in those prehistoric times where people were actually hunting. So what you have if you have ADHD is you have one, time blindness, which is very similar to what schizophrenics have, where entire blocks of time just vanish. I'll have a conversation with my wife, and then like an hour later, she'll reference something from the conversation, and I have no recollection. It's gone. Entire blocks of time missing. If you ask me to recall my day, I can recall points. I can say, okay, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And that's all I remember from the day. That's it. Another thing that we do is stimulation loops, like mental loops. And this is images, visualizations, as well as auditory. So something could catch my eye, and I hear it or I see it, and that thing is now looping in my head endlessly. Another thing is, if you talk to somebody with ADHD, you have a very limited amount of time to kind of communicate your points, because that person is about to zone. Like that person is about to change their mind. Another thing, this is a really bad one, is I call it mind wipe. Is we could be talking, or you tell me something else happens and interrupts it. That wipes my brain completely, and my knowledge. I have zero memory of what we were just talking about, or what I was supposed to do. Happens all the time now that I have kids. I'll be walking somewhere to go do something, and my kid, die, la, 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 la. Okay, well, whatever my task was is gone. And a lot of times I don't even remember that I had a task. It's just gone. And my wife will be like, what happened with this? Why did you do that? I was like, I don't even. And I was like, a lot of times I don't even remember that I was supposed to do it. I don't even remember what the thing is. Like, why? What? It's like I'm completely blindsided. You know what I mean? And it's just the way that I am. And I didn't even put it together when I was a young man that this is what was affecting my life. Because there was times, like one time I remember this distinctly. Me and my wife, when we first got together, sitting in my apartment, the electricity goes off. I forgot to pay the bill for months. Literally I had no memory of whether or not, like, I probably got the letter in the mail, put it down, and then forgot about it. And, oh, well, yeah, that's gone. And then that happened multiple times, and then the lights go off. So I had to call them and fucking get it, pay them. So that I didn't have the money. I had the money. I just, it just happens. The time blindness is really bad, because sometimes this goes into days. There'll be times that I have to do a task. I'm like, okay, well, I got to do X, Y, Z today. I'll do it tomorrow. And then 4 days will pass. And I'll be like, okay, now it's time to do that thing. But I was supposed to do it. You know what I mean? It's like entire days, entire hours, everything just goes missing. You can ask Mike. I'm late for Culture Dads all the fucking time. And it's literally, I have no memory of it, right? Like sometimes I'm late and I'm just like fucking, I just did 10 things before I had to do the show. I didn't have to, but I just ended up doing those stupid things. Or other times I'll just go and I'll just fucking be like, sometimes, because we do it in the morning. Sometimes I go stand in the morning. I'm like, okay, I'm drinking my coffee and I'm thinking about the stuff that we're going to talk about today. I'm like, okay, so we're going to talk about X, Y, Z, blah, blah. I'm looking at my notes, and it's supposed to be a 5-minute endeavor. It's half an hour. And it just goes like that. I don't understand. People with ADHD do not perceive time the way that regular people do. Time is different to us, and that fucks everything up in modern world. I've had to tell people, like, So when I go into a job interview, if I'm going to go do a day job, I have to tell them straight up to their faces, look, you have to give me the same exact schedule every day, every week, the same time, all the time. If you start changing it, I'm going to quit. Because if I don't, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to fuck it up. Because I do it without fail. Without fail. The last job that I had, my bosses were pretty cool. And they understood because I guess the husband had ADHD in the family. So they were a little bit more lenient, right? There was like times that I had to come in for work or whatever, and I completely forgot I even had to come into work. So I come in like 4 hours late. I'm like, fuck, I didn't even realize I had to work today. And they're like calling me off the hook. I didn't even know where my phone was. I'm a retard. Like, I'm fucking, when it comes to trying to maneuver and function in everyday society, especially the monotony of day jobs and shift work and all this kind of stuff, it is a fucking struggle. It is a struggle. And here's the problem, is that normal people, because they have no frame of reference, because they usually don't know anybody like this, they don't understand, and you can't make them understand. So if you're in a job, you're working at a job, and like it's like you're screwing things up, you just have to quit and go find another job, because that job is not going. When you sit into the bosses, like, hey, why were you late all of these days? Why did you forget to do this? Why did you screw this up? Why, XYZ? And you say, what are you going to say? Hey, I'm sorry. I have a fucking behavioral disorder. I have ADHD, which is Hunter's brain. The drug fucking. They're not going to care. They don't understand. They usually don't want to understand. They're just mad because they hired you and you fucked up. So you just have to be like, sorry, guys, it's just the way that I am. I'm going to have to walk away. Thank you for the opportunity. And that's it. That's just how it's always been. Right. So dealing with this, it took me a lot of years to figure out how I'm supposed to live with this. And my poor wife, she's like, it's fucking hard. It's hard for her because she has a fourth child that she has to look out for in some ways. She has to keep an eye on all the finances, or I will fuck them up. She has to keep an eye on all of these things. She has to do her best to keep me organized, or I will screw everything up. So yeah, there's just been, it's just been a hustle my whole life, trying to figure out like how I work, how I can operate things and organize things the way that I am. Because on the flip side with the ADHD is I also kind of have a superpower. I learn a lot faster than regular people. I can put things together much faster than regular people in my head. I come to conclusions all the time. People, I have conversations with people all the time, and I put things together. They're like, oh, how do you know that? Did you read that? No, I just put it together from this conversation. And one of the things that leads to that is because the ADHD, I zone in and out of conversations. Half the time when people are talking, I'm in and out of what they're talking about. There's something going on in my head that's distracting me. And then they finish talking and they look at me, and I automatically have to put together, based on the context that I've heard, everything that they've said. So I have to post hoc reassemble what they were saying, right? And what this has done for me is I have like this superpower to put things together and figure things out outside the box, what regular people think. And this has also given me the ability to I'm a very, very fast learner. There's a reason that Big Dave does fiction. There's a reason I'm like, I write fiction stories. I do poetry. I'm a publisher. I'm a musician. I'm a game designer. I'm this, I'm that. I do websites. I do fucking gardening. There's a reason that I can like do all of these things is because one, I go from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, and I learn it really, really quickly. It gives me a huge skill set. Because of how I am, I'm pretty confident that I can go into just about everything and learn how to do it. There are very few things, unless it's something tedious with numbers and bean counting, that if I can shadow you and watch how you do it, or you could tell me how to do it, I can figure it out. There are very few things in this world that I can't figure out. Taught myself book layout in like a weekend. Taught myself cover design in like a weekend. I literally just downloaded the the software and monkeyed with it and taught myself how to play guitar, taught myself how to play bass, taught myself how to do music, I teach myself everything. I'm an autodidact. I'm like super autodidact because even though I'm a can't manage my everyday mundane life, I am also a really quick learner. And also it helps me with things like writing stories, dude. Read some of my, and I'm not bragging. I'm not the best writer ever, anything like that. But I have some concepts in my stories that, are not usual for those genres. You'll read it and you'll be like, that was really out there. That's because I have this outside the box, gigantic fucking imagination, and I can cook up things that are weird and fresh and unique and outside the box. That's how it is. If I go to work somewhere, I'm the guy that you got to bounce me around to all these different little tasks, and I'll learn everything in the time that somebody learns one thing. I will learn 10 things. For example, in a restaurant, restaurant work was great for me because I can run fry, I can run grill, I can run garde manger, I can be saucier, I can do prep work, I could do this, I could do that, and then I could do serving, I'll learn the entire restaurant in a year. And what most people, it takes them a year to learn one or two things, I have learned everything. So it's kind of a super talent. It's just the way that it is. And here's another thing about ADHD is that there's different parts of ADHD, right? There's it's almost like a spectrum kind of thing. Most people in prison have ADHD and they're very low IQ and they're very high on the hyperactive side of things. And then you have what's called inattentive ADHD and Ring of Fire ADHD and like a bunch of different, they have all these different goofy categories. But the people that are on the other side of the spectrum, the guys like me, the average IQ, I believe, is like 112 or something like that. 112. If you put all of us, that's just the average, right? And then you got to take into account that these are people that are just naturally horrible at taking tests. They can't take tests. So they're probably undershooting, right? The average IQ, who knows what it is? If you put all of these ADHD people into one country, first of all, it would be a disaster country. Nothing would get done. It would be fucking retarded. But if you did, it would be the smartest country in the world. Just about every eccentric genius that you can think of throughout history probably had ADHD. Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, everybody. They probably had it because they came up, because what you want to look for with these people in history is they had these absolutely genius, crazy, groundbreaking ideas. And then they also had these absolutely fucking out there retarded ideas that just made no sense. But like Nikola Tesla's was at the Wardenclyffe Tower, right? That was retarded. That thing did not work. But the concept behind it was something that nobody ever even thought of before. You know what I mean? This is kind of the nature of how it is. So what I've had to do, and this is another thing, this is going to go into working with your flaws and figuring out how to get. And I wish I had an older guy to teach me this shit when I was younger, but the cards fell where they fell. And I learned at this point in my life. I was talking to a rich guy in the bar one time, really successful, older guy, right? One of those guys that like wears a fucking handkerchief on his neck, like the front ways that you like would normally make fun of guy, like some fucking, Colonel Sanders looking shit, right? He's wearing this shit in the kind of like what Jolly Heretic wears, right? And he's got like a blazer on and shoe. His outfit probably is worth more money than I've seen in my entire life collectively, right? He's very, very wealthy guy. And I sat down and talked to him, and he was just interested. We were like the only guys in the bar. It's like a Wednesday. I'm this fucking kid. I got crazy long hair. I got a heavy metal shirt on, and he was just intrigued to talk to me and pick my brain because he's probably never even talked to a guy like me. And we had a great conversation, and it was awesome. The one thing that he told me, and he's like, remember this. He's like, you're not making money until you're making money while you're not working. So you're not making real money until you're making money when you're not working. And at the time, I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? Because my whole life, I'm taught that, well, you have to work to get ahead. You have to get paid for working, right? This is just like this is just a boomer idiom, right? This is just you can, if you work hard, you will get to the middle, maybe. And if you work hard and you get paid for working, it's good. But if something goes wrong, it all comes crashing down. You get hurt, which you probably will. Everybody has at least like one work injury when they're working, right? And who knows how bad it's going to be. Some people just like, oh man, fucking hurt my back a little bit. Or, oh man, I got tennis elbow, or like just whatever, right? But some people get really hurt, right? I know a lot of guys that something fell on them. I know a guy forklift ran over his foot and he's just like fucked up his whole life, right? They had to amputate part of his foot. It's just like he's fucked up. You know what I mean? And now he collects disability. And because he was getting paid for working, when he stopped working, that leftover money he got from working dried up real quick. So you're not making money, real money, until you're getting paid when you're not working. And what I have found is my ADHD is fucking awesome for this, because I can have 10 different fucking projects, 10 different things that are all giving me little trickles of passive income at all times. And I get by. And this works, right? And I don't know how to do it. Like, if you're listening, I don't know how you can do this. I did it the way that I know how to, in the avenues where I can be. But for you, maybe you set up some sort of investment thing. You set up this thing over here. You do this thing over here. Blah 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 blah. Especially with the internet, dude. You gotta set up trickles of income that get you paid, so you can make money while you're not working. And once you do this, you can get to the point that you're like, fuck, I don't need to go to work if I don't want to. These jobs, it's like, you're not going to be like, oh, well, if I get fired, I'm so fucked. Or if these guys lay me off, I'm fucked. Or if they go out of business, I'm fucked. You have to make yourself, Mike talks about this all the time, anti-fragile. You have to make you and your household anti-fragile in many different ways, right? So streams of income that can't be fucked with. Or, just like and they're none of them. So we're kind of wired to think we want this big lump sum payout, right? We want one big for some reason. We all want that one big. We want the one big leader. We want one big payout. We want one big success. We want one big opportunity. That nothing works like that. There's never one big. There's always a lot of little and a lot of hustle between the littles and a lot of persistence. So set up because a lot of little things end up being something big, right? Everything big is made up of a lot of littles. And I know I'm kind of using simplistic language here, but it's true and it's real and it's applicable and I'm living it. So I'm not rich guy. I'm not even close to rich guy. I'm still fucking poor, but I'm less poor now than I was some years ago. And in 5 years from now, I'm going to be even less poor. And 5 years from then, I'm going to be not poor at all. And fucking someday, Big Dave is going to be driving around in a goddamn Cadillac. That's my goal. I want a Cadillac. I want a house with a fucking hot tub. I want creature comforts because I've never had those. And, I don't give a fuck if that's petty or whatever. But that's what I want in life. I want, it doesn't have to be a Cadillac. It could be something. I want a cool car. I want a cool car to drive around in. I want a nice digs. I want a place where my kids can run. I want safety. I want security. I want fucking, and I want to have enough money, that I can like lift people up and take care of people. And like, you need this done. Here's some, I want to invest in people. You know what I mean? And, there's some guys that are already, that are ahead of me in this regard. But I think that everybody should strive for this, because the more that we all go towards this direction, the more we can all lift each other up and the bigger we all become. And then someday when we're older guys, we're going to look back and we'll be like, fuck, we made it. And we're going to look to the vampires and we're going to be like, kiss my ring, bitch. That's what it's about. But
hell yeah.
Sorry. Another ADHD thing is that big, long streams of consciousness, big, long monologues. Because sometimes you guys will hear me. I'll go like, I'll do this. So my brain's trying to say 10 different things at once. And I have to like slow my brain down and select the one thing, right? But it's cool because another thing is my short-term memory non-existent. My long-term memory is a fucking steel trap. So it is very easy for me. I can drum up talking points from 2005 and just riff on them. I remember like big things that have value in my mind. I remember them forever. You could hit me up when I'm 90 years old. Be like, Dave, tell me about your ideas on hyperromanticism. Tell me about your ideas of immanent theology. Tell me these ideas, and I'll talk your fucking ear off about it forever. So sorry, Mike. I've been yakking and yakking.
No, that's cool, man. It's one of the things that I learned about my buddy Dave when I was listening to that earlier stream is that that you don't stop him in his flow because he'll forget where he was. No, there's a lot of good shit there. A lot to respond to and everything like that. First of all, yes. Doing the sort of like, the inverse of death by 1,000 cuts, like it's 1,000 income streams, small income streams adding up to a gigantic waterfall is like, that is the way to do it. That's something that I've always tried to do, and with varying amounts of success. And Imperium is now sort of one of those. Well, this is my job now, and one of the other things I try to do with it is I try to give work only to our guys as much as I can. And I've been trying to do that from the very start. Like when we first began, I tried, I got like a hotshot graphic designer to design a bunch of like covers for us and everything. It was a lot of money. But very quickly I transitioned towards paying guys in our scene, guys who I believe in, guys who deserve it. And I think that's the way it's got to be. And the more of us that can do that, the stronger it's going to be. But anyway, yes, as you were talking there, I sort of have thinking to myself, like, fuck, maybe I've got ADHD because I'm dealing with a lot of the same. I very well might, because I deal with a lot of the same problems. My issue specifically is memory, but I was sort of like, as you're talking about that mind wipe thing that you were saying about like just forgetting kind of where you are in midstream. That happens to me all the time, dude. I'll be like, I'll go into like the back room in my house, which is where, I kind of keep like food and stuff, like longer term food, like stuff in cans or like pasta and stuff. I'll go in there and I'll be like, what the fuck did I even come in here for? I'm like walking down the hall and it's like a 10-second walk. And something in my brain, I'm just thinking about something that like takes me on this like little, 5-second journey in thought. And I'll get into the room and I'll be like, what the hell did I even come in here for? And I have to go back out and then like kind of go back to where I was standing and be like, oh yeah, I came back in here to get some, this or that, whatever thing. I'm constantly having to put things in weird places so that I will not forget about them, or that I will come upon this thing. So for example, like, one thing might be, let's say I have to put like a bill when it comes in, if it's something that comes in like as a like physical piece of mail, I'll have to like put that on top of my keyboard at my work computer so that I don't forget about it. I can't deal with it right now. I've got to make dinner, or I've got to go, drive the kids to school or whatever it is. And I come back to it and I have to pick the thing up and just be like, yeah, okay, sorry. I can't start working. I have to pay this bill or whatever. Like that's the only way that shit is ever going to get paid, because if I just chuck it into a pile, it's going to get forgotten about. I have to do these things. I have to like, come up with these tricks to basically deal with my own retardations, basically. Mm-hmm. I'll come back to that, because there was something else that Dave mentioned that I wanted to sort of pick up on and discuss a little bit, which is the idea that pathologies, things like mental illness and everything like that, has really become a thing that is it's an important part. It's mental illness, especially when it comes to stuff that's like the mainstream says is bad, like like homophobia or sexism or racism and things like that. That is like the fact that has become a mental health issue. These things, from the beginning of time up until the day before yesterday, considered completely normal and maybe even good, have now been pathologized is a very, very it's a very pernicious development in our world, because basically what it is and it's something that's actually been talked about by a guy named Paul Gottfried, who is kind of like, he's kind of verging on being like our guy, but he's like a scholar of he's a conservative, basically, very old now, but he has written some very interesting stuff. And one of the things is he comes up with the idea of the therapeutic state, which is basically the idea that the state's legitimate duty of care, and obviously the state does owe this duty of protecting its citizens and ensuring the minimization of harm and everything, that this duty of care can kind of be beaten into like any shape that will serve the cause of progressive social engineering, right? And the idea is that harm is the one thing that that's the sort of like, we get this idea that my right to swing my fist ends where your nose begins, kind of thing, which is basically saying that harm is the sort of principle that governs when the government is going to step in and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And the way that the way that the progressive social engineering, cultural Marxists, so to speak, or whatever, overcome this, because they obviously want to do more than just like fiddle around with like what is going to harm people, is they basically expand the definition of harm to where they can do whatever they want. And because this is how we get things like, civil rights legislation. It's actually doing people harm, noticing these differences between peoples and everything like that. And it gets even worse, because what they try to do is they try to take these unprogressive attitudes, like I said, things like misogyny and stuff like that, and they try to rebrand this as a pathology. I mean, like, just even the idea of homophobia itself, like as a phobia, which is a legitimate mental illness. The 99.998% of humans who ever lived have this quote unquote mental illness sort of thing. This basically gives the state the license to intervene to protect the homophobe himself for his own good, right? It's really, really scary, like ugly stuff. Basically makes a medical issue of dissent against like liberal orthodoxy. And then they can go ahead and like deal with it coercively, right? And instead of just like browbeating you and making you like guilt you into changing your opinions, it's like, this is now a like cause for you to be either institutionalized or shut out of discourse and everything like that. And it's while still maintaining the fiction of society being an open society and everything like that. And then they have to, in order to do that, they have to like manage public perception. They have to have like trot out this expert consensus that changes from generation to generation and everything. I mean, it's a bit of a tangent to go on here, but because Dave mentioned it about these mental illness as sort of an excuse to like pathologize what's normal, basically. I figured it was worth mentioning and everything like that. But yeah, it's definitely like the ADHD thing. When I was growing up in the 90s, I didn't really believe in it either until I met this girl who had her two little brothers had severe ADHD, and like they were hyperactive, they were destructive, they were like unable to focus, and I got it, right. I understood it was a real thing, even if it's not a real thing for everyone who was diagnosed with it per se. There's certainly people who do have it, and who knows, maybe I have it. I certainly have memory problems. I have serious memory problems, and it's not just like, it's short and long term, where I was like actually thinking about this the other day. Like myself and the wife, we've been together for a long time now, and we've had like lots of pets over a period of time. And there was this one, like she loves rabbits. Like she's a rabbit person, and we've had rabbits like, you know, going back for many years and everything like that. And there was this one pair that we had that were like really hilarious, and we were really attached to them and everything like that. And it was a male female combo, and they were obviously like spayed and neutered and everything, but they're kind of like this funny like old couple and everything. It's like the guy was like this, the male was sort of this grumpy old man, and the female was sort of like this ditzy sort of like just only wanted like food is like the only thing like that she liked in the world, and she was kind of goofy and stuff. And it was like we loved them. We just loved them tremendously. And I remember that when the female died, it was a very, very traumatic event. Like I was depressed for like a week. It was just like, it was horrible. It was like having your dog die or something like that. Like I was so attached. And I was thinking back, this happened a good, you know, coming up on 15 years ago now. I can't remember how she died. All I remember is the trauma. All I remember is just like being sad about it and everything like that. This is the kind of thing that, you know, memories for me fade. I'm like, I am the guy in Memento. I am that guy. I mean, like he obviously, for people who haven't seen this movie, it's about a guy who, like his wife gets killed and he gets injured, and the injury gives him sort of like this mental problem where he loses his short-term memory, can't remember what happened more than 15 minutes ago. So it's an interesting movie because it goes through his like struggles with that and like trying to take revenge and everything when he can't even like remember who people are. But I'm kind of that guy, like in a like somewhat attenuated way. I am like, you know, I have a lot of trouble remembering what's happened even just kind of recently. I'm sure people have noticed I get stuck for words. I can't remember words. Like I know what I want to say. I know that there is a word that I need to land on, and I have quite a large vocabulary, which is kind of a curse because I like sometimes I'll get stuck and I'll just be like, what is that one word that means exactly the thing I want to say? And I end up sounding more stupid because of it. But my memory is such a problem for me. And it's something that I've had to deal with. It's always been like that. It's not because I'm getting older, although it is getting worse. Mm-hmm. It's been like that since I was a teenager. But I have had to solve this problem essentially by becoming a rigorous formalist. And now you can kind of, it gives you a key to understanding Mike a little bit, right? Why it is that I'm so obsessed with ritual, why it is that I'm so obsessed with things like tradition and things being remembered. It's a big part of why liberalism itself as an ideology, as a worldview, irks me so fucking bad, why I hate it so much. The idea, I mean, what liberalism is fundamentally as this year zero ideology that just wants to wipe the past every day or every year or whatever. It's like, you know, the people in the Democrat Party having to apologize for what they said 5 or 6 years ago when it was acceptable back then or whatever. The reason why it pisses me off so bad, why liberalism just gets me so bad, is that I struggle with exactly the thing that liberalism prescribes. It prescribes amnesia. It is basically amnesia raised to the power of an ideology. And this is my struggle every single day. Every day, I struggle with memory problems. I can't remember shit. I have to write things down. I get this from my mom. She's the same way. She, like, if I go visit her back in Canada, I will come to a house full of Post-it notes. These Post-it notes are everywhere. They're on the fridge. They're on the counter. They're all over the place. They're on the couch. This is her way of dealing with it, right? Like, because you've got the same problem and everything. So the idea that of just erasing the past arbitrarily because for whatever reason, this is why I hate it. And so I have had to learn to deal with this problem in different ways. One of the things that is, and now this sounds like, and it is, a serious disadvantage. Like if I had the same like intelligence and ability to like make connections between different things and creative ability, problem solving, if I had all that stuff, but I could just, you know, my RAM, my memory bank wasn't so small, then I would be, you know, I'd be like a millionaire by now, right? If I had this, and I could sort of like express myself in ways that are a little bit more eloquent, or just like remember shit. Because I always like, you know, if I'm debating or something like that, which I don't really do that much anymore, I know that I'm right. I know that the point I'm making is right, but I can't always remember the reason why it's right. I can't always remember the evidence that you could cite in favor of what it is that I'm saying. But I know that it's right. I definitely know that. And sometimes it'll happen where I'm in a discussion or whatever, and I'd like, I can't prove it, but you know, it's true. And then like, you know, I remember 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh yeah, it's because of this or whatever. And you know, it's too late then. But the fact is that this is a problem for me, but it is also in some ways I have been able to compensate for it by having, and whether I've developed this or whether it's a natural thing or whatever, I have impeccable instincts. My gut is almost never wrong. Almost never. And I think for most people, it's probably almost never wrong. But I'm just really good at listening to my gut. I'm really, really good at like taking my own intuition seriously. And part of the reason why I take my intuition seriously is because it's all I fucking got. You know, like I don't have that like large bank of data in my head that a lot of people have that they could cite off the top of their head, some random fact or whatever. I can't do that, you know, like, and this is another thing I think about dealing with your flaws that's key, is knowing what you can't do, knowing where you fit, knowing what your weaknesses are, just so you can stay away from certain, say, for example, career paths. Like for me, I'm a fairly intelligent person, but I would make a really shitty doctor or a really shitty lawyer. Like I'm pretty good in an argument. I can usually make a reasoned case for just about anything, but I would be a terrible lawyer because you have to remember precedent, you have to remember cases, or if you're a doctor, you have to remember like this massive bank of information I just do not have access to. But I have my gut instinct, and I guess if I was a doctor, maybe that would serve me too. But I can't really remember details very well. You know, but I can remember overall impressions. I can remember that, you know, for example, something like teleology, which is it's a metaphysical thesis that many years ago I was looking into very deeply, and I came to reject it because of there's, you know, various reasons that I won't go into right now, that later on, after I had sort of studied it and decided that it was bogus and wrong, I kind of forgot why. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, if you're arguing with somebody about this, that's not a very convincing, trust me, I figured this out before, you know, that's not a very good argument. But the fact that I had was completely like for me, it was just absolutely like a case closed sort of thing. And then later on, I remembered, oh yeah, it's because of this. And, you know, I have to write things down. You know, I have like probably hundreds of thousands or millions of words worth of notes that I've written, like on things like metaphysics, epistemology, you know, political praxis, and all these things, like, you know, plans for the future with Imperium and everything. I have to write everything down because that's how I deal with it, kind of thing, right? But I don't remember details very well, but I can remember overall impressions really, really well. I mean, this is kind of like what governs my life, right? It's like that old saying that people may not remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. Well, this is me in a nutshell, kind of thing. So for me, in order to deal with my memory problems, which is kind of the like cardinal problem in my life, I have had to become a creature of habit. I have had to have rigorous routines. I have to trust my instinct. Like for me, when I discovered the ancestor cult, when I discovered the domestic cult, where you're supposed to every day at the same time, you go and you undertake the same ritual to propitiate the ancestors in the same way, in a very routine, almost algorithmic manner. This was, for me, this is a real discovery. It was everything that I knew had to be there. It was something that was, and I think for people, ancient peoples who thought somewhat differently than we do as moderns, that I think I'm probably a bit of a throwback to, just me having been born at this time. I think just genetically, I probably resemble a person of a much earlier time, much more than most people do, because this fits me like a glove kind of thing. I need to do things procedurally in a lot of cases. Like I'm a very creative person, but as we always say, creativity is only creativity within constraint, right? Like for me, procedures are very, very important. I have to write everything down. For example, what I was doing basically a couple of minutes before we started this broadcast is I have been, like, every week on Monday, I will write down, because I have like a ton of like recipes that I have like just kind of floating around in different places and everything. So what I've been doing is I've been actually like writing them down like formally in the same format, and like, here are the ingredients, here's the prep, here's the method kind of thing, like in a standardized format. And I've been putting these things into that standard format because that's how I have to deal with it. I'm not the kind of guy, except for in a couple of cases, that can just like go and like grab a pan and start like with no measurements or anything. That's not who I am. So I've had to do this, and it's actually been very beneficial for me. It's like now it takes me half the time to cook up all my dishes and everything. Procedures are like life. They're my lifeblood. Like I need this shit. I need it like I need fucking air. Yeah. Like when I was working at like the last job before I quit basically to do Imperium, I was working at a small company that was doing like manufacturing of like very specialized equipment. And there was like 5 guys that worked there. And one of the things like that I wanted to do when I got in there, because, it's like all the people there were very talented, and there was like a lot of potential and everything that I saw. One of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to get guys to actually follow procedures so that like things would be done in a standardized way and everything, be more efficient and whatnot. And you would not believe the amount of pushback I got on this. And this was even like where the boss was like behind me on that. He was like, yeah, we should do that. But then when like the rubber hits the road and it's like, okay, well, here's the procedure. I've drawn it up. Let's follow it. It's like, okay, it sounds like a good idea, but when you have to do it, nobody wants to fucking do it. Right? It's like just how it is. And this is, for me, I have to be a creature of habit. I have to have a routine. I don't like change. It throws off my ritual. I have my daily routine. I have my weekly routine. I have my end of month procedures every single month that I do for Imperium and stuff like that. This is how I have to structure my life. And it may sound autistic. It may sound kind of stupid. It may kind of sound like, like, why the fuck can't you just like wing it? Or like, why can't you deal with like change and stuff? But this is how I've been able to get to this point. This is the only way that I've been able to actually build this thing, is by dealing with my own disadvantages, and in some ways turning them to advantages, like what I said before with trusting your gut and whatnot. Like, if somebody gives me a bad vibe, or if I think that a project is not going to lead anywhere or whatever, 100% of the time I'm right. Like, virtually 100% of the time. And I think it's because, that sensitive organ that is the gut is something that you have to cultivate, and a lot of people don't. And I've had to, because of my retardation, basically. So, just to give you an example, that's sort of an extended example of like how one guy deals with his particular flaws. It's really about knowing what your flaws are. Like that's the first step. So yeah, that's my story basically.
Yeah, you talked about a lot there. I think you might have at least like a small form of it. Do you have do you feel things more intensely than regular people? Like do you like, you hear a song, you get more worked up about the song than what regular people would?
Yes and no. Probably for music, but not so much for like other kinds of art. Like TV does nothing for me. Movies, I like them, but I don't get that jacked up about movies. Like I don't cry at movies.
No,
like the way that some people do. No, but music often gets me. So
are there certain textures that make your skin crawl, like will make you barf?
Yes. One of the things that I fucking hate, and I had this one friend, she used to laugh at me for this back in the day, is like I would not eat like a popsicle if it had a wooden stick.
Oh, bro.
Because as soon as that fucking wooden stick touches my tongue, it just sends a shiver up my spine. I'm just like, oh, God, this is the worst, like. Oh.
Yeah, popsicle sticks. What's that? Velour fabric or felt fabric. If you even throw one of those fabrics on me, I will punch you in your face. That will make me barf.
So popsicle. Dave's not going to be draped in like velvet robes in his 10 years from now when he's got all his creature comforts. That's not going to be one of them.
No, not at all. Not at all. And then there's other fabrics that I get like a lot, like things that are silky. Like I love getting like with a sateen, like the bed sheets. I'll just roll on that shit. I'm like a pig in mud, dude. I love that shit. It makes me feel good. It's that weird, but it's what it is. It's what it is. But here's the deal: is I know this word is gay, neurodivergent. If you are neurodivergent, you have a whole lot of crap that you can't. That like stifles you in today's world. But if you figure out how to utilize it, and because that's going to give you an edge over regular people in other ways, right? Like, for example, if you're an autistic guy, you have autism, dude, autism is like perfect for certain jobs, certain things. You could be a bookkeeper. I literally, that's the reason I say that. I know a guy that has Asperger's and he's a bookkeeper. He's a private bookkeeper.
Perfect job for that guy.
And he got his shit online. He got his degree online. And this guy, and because of everything, he's such a bean counter. He's got crypto going. He's got investments going. He's got this going and that going, or whatever. And he's a young guy and he's got money. This guy's doing good. I was like, dude, fucking, if I ever get to the point, I'm gonna hire this guy to be a fucking accountant, right? But there's so many things that you can do. You know what I mean? It doesn't. You got to look at it. Yeah, it's you can't take like the progressives crap and be like, oh, I'm a poor puppy dog, and blah, blah. You got to be like, yeah, well, I'm just built different. I got to do some different shit. Right?
You got to own it.
You got to own it. And I'm not celebrating it here. I'm not saying it's better or worse. If I don't know, if somebody gave me a switch to flip to become regular, I don't know if I would switch it because I'm so used to it's part of who I am. I don't know if I could, but I would certainly be tempted because of how hard shit's been, figuring all this out. You know what I mean? Especially coming from the upbringing I came from and everything I've had to overcome and figure out. It's been tough, right? So it would be pretty tempting to flip that switch. But you guys listening, everybody, man, nobody is perfect. And here's another thing that I think sucks about these spheres is that there's a lot of guys, crabs, that are looking to just dunk, that are looking to make themselves feel better by ripping dudes down, by talking shit. They think they have this like complete 4chan. You know, the 4chan had its place and everything, but there's a 4chan culture that is legit toxic. And are we a bunch of like kiddie trolls on the internet fucking trying to make ourselves feel better about our own problems? Or are we brothers that love and care about each other and want victory and success? You know what I mean? So I think that there's a lot of guys that hide a lot of their problems and lie about it so they don't look bad, right? There's a lot of guys that, that might not, that are under the poverty line. They can't afford real good food. So they don't express that because they know somebody's going to jump on them about eating goy slop and like all this shit. Now, let me tell you, if you got X amount of dollars and you got to eat, you got to eat. And sometimes that means goy slop, right? It's just, it is what it is. What are you going to do? Starve? What are you going to do? Go out into the woods and plant some fucking asparagus and wait 6 months for it to grow? Come on. You got to eat and you got to eat. The world is the way that it is. And instead of doing that shit, what we should do is like do like food drives or do like, or make suggestions like, hey, instead of eating this, I know you only got X amount of dollars, but here, go to this, help them find like a discount grocery store. They got shit on the cheap. You know, you could go get some cans of vegetables and do something with that. Get some cans of beans, do something with that. You could go and look.
That's why we did our Learn to Cook episode, right? Like, this is the kind of thing that guys can do, right?
There's so much shit out there. Guys that struggle with their fitness, guys that struggle with their, dude, I can't tell you how many guys like I meet that are just, that are fat guys. And that's okay. You know what I mean? It's not good to be a fat guy, but here's the deal. It's like, once you get older, your hormones change after you have kids. You fucking, you only can afford certain food. You got work and everything and stress. And it's tough. It's so, instead of like, because here's the thing is that bullying does not work for grown ass men. It just don't. You know what I mean? If you come at me and you call me names and you talk shit to me, I don't care if I'm wrong or not. I'm going to double down and tell you to go fuck yourself. But if like you come at it from a different angle and you say, yo, dude, you gotta, you're smoking too much or you're drinking too. I don't drink too much, but let's say I do. It's like, yo, brother, you're drinking a little too much. This ain't good for you. I'm worried about you. Let's try to do this instead. I would be like, that's like, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. But if you come at me and be like, you drunk fucking degenerate piece of shit, like, all right, fine. Fuck you, scumbag. Let's fucking throw, it's just that kind of culture. Like pressures guys to hide their flaws instead of so Mel Gibson has this thing he talks about. Mel Gibson says inside everybody you got a cactus, and before you can get rid of the cactus you got to hug the cactus. You know what I mean? He ain't lying. Before I could start dealing with the problems that I have with my ADHD, I had to accept it. You know what I mean? I had to bring it to the forefront. I had to be like, okay, this is real. I had to admit to myself that it's real, that it's something I have to deal with. And I had to come to terms with it. I got to hug my fucking cactus. You know what I mean? I hugged my cactus. And then after that, I was able to deal with it. I knew how to take care of it. You got to hug your cactus. And there's a lot of places, a lot of spots where it is impossible for guys to admit that they have a cactus out of pride, out of guilt, out of shame, out of everything. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying let's be a bunch of hippy dippy fucking counselor, like life coach. It's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, let's ease up. It's tough out here. It's tough out here. Guys got flaws. Guys got problems. And there's going to be a lot of shit coming down. These young guys coming up, dude, these young guys coming up are going to have a whole bunch more problems because, like me and Mike and you guys listen that might be in your 30s or 40s or whatever. Dude, we had the chance to grow up in a different world, a better world that didn't have half this shit, right? These guys came up in the shit. You know what I mean? They came up in the problems. They don't even know that world that we knew. They'd never experienced it. So they're going to have a whole slew of new problems. And you know what? If we're going to be successful, if we're going to be a community, if we're going to be somebody that we got to be like, yo, here's your flaws. And a lot of these young guys do. I've talked to some, they got problems I don't even understand, that I can't understand. And I'm like, yo, I don't understand what you're dealing with. This is not something that I can vibe with. I can't put myself in your shoes. But, yo, let's figure out how to overcome this shit. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, dude, let me tell you, a lot of young guys are addicted to porn. And if they're not addicted to porn through dating apps like Tinder and shit, they're addicted to like sex, like one night stands with whores, like fat, disgusting whores. They just like plow through them, right? And here's the deal: is that I'm the first guy to tell you that the masculine, the urge to reproduce, the male sex drive is not a dirty thing, but sometimes it feels like it. It's part of nature. It's a beautiful thing, unless you treat it, unless you go down a dark path with it. And it's so easy for these guys to do it. Because let me tell you, if you're a half good looking guy, if you're not, as long as you're not a troll, you can get on these Tinder apps and there's a bunch of these fucking whores that will sleep with you. And let me tell you, as a young man, if you're in your early 20s, it's hard to say no to a woman that wants to sleep with you, period. Unless she's, 80 years old or, some kind of, land whale or something. If she's at least a little bit, you have a couple drinks in you, she hits you up, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? It's hard to overcome that. I don't have that experience. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, if you wanted to get with a girl, you had to walk up and talk to her or like hit her up on America Online. Like hit her up on AIM, right? And you had to yak with her. And before you could do that, you had to actually go on dates and, all this kind of shit. The one night that existed, there was one night stands, but it wasn't like it is now where that's the standard. You know what I mean? So I don't even understand that world. But guys got to overcome that shit. And let me tell you, that's not healthy for the young male brain to have that kind of access to women, have the access to women physically, to have that access to porn and women virtually and visually. That's not healthy for the male brain. That's fucked up. That fucks guys up. And on top of all that, with all this homo shit that the modern world puts out there, dude, I can't tell you how many young guys I know that were molested. That's legit. That's going to be something we have to deal with, is young men that got molested by homos because their parents were fucking, I'm not homophobic, and taking them to goddamn drag queen hours, letting them go into Boy Scouts with some queer fucking scout leader. Like, let's be real here. And this is like one of the biggest no-nos you're not allowed to say out in the open. And I'm going to say it because it's true, is that homos have pedophile culture with them. If you have homos, they're going to want access to boys, period. And what happens if you accept these people when they are being accepted, whether it's in school systems, whether it's in recreational activities like Boy Scouts and soccer leagues and shit, whether it's at camps or whatever, there's going to be if there's homos there, they're going to do some shit with kids. And here's the thing with homos. When you get homos in something, they bring more homos. That's how they do it. That's because they feel comfortable around them. Even if they're lying about it and they keep it hidden, they bring more of their people in. I've seen it. And the problem is you have a contingency of these people, kids are going to get abused. So we're going to have a whole generation of young men that a ton of them have been sexually abused by homosexuals. And this is something that we going to have to deal with. This is going to be a flaw in the future that we're going to have to deal with. And here's the deal with men that get abused. That shit is not easy to admit. You know what I mean? That is like guilt and shame on a level that people can't even empathize with, dude. That's something that you hold until you go to the grave and you tell nobody, right? Because if you come out with it, number one, it makes you look weak. It makes people think that you're going to be gay or you're going to be a child abuser or there's something wrong with you, right? It's like all of these things. If you admit that, which is going to and then everybody's going to think you're sus. And you know what? It's legit too, right? So it's like you're in a tough spot. It's like, because the main thing that leads to people being perverts is that they were abused. That's how these people breed. So it's like, if you admit that, the guys might be like, oh yeah, but in the back of their minds, they're going to think, is this guy possibly a pervert? Do I need to worry about him? You know what I mean? So it's like they have a lot of shit that they got to worry about in coming out with this. I know this is kind of off the rails, but this is some shit that we got to think about. This is some stuff we got to think about that we're going to address if we're going to be a community, and we are. I don't want this idea of everybody just being that we got to move as a unit. We got to come together. We got to build shit together. We got to move close to one another. We got to form enclaves. We got to do this. We have to batten down the hatches and try to survive this collapse. And it's not going to be an overnight thing, right? The big machine is like falling over. It's going to take a long time. We need to come together, join hands, tighten up, batten the hatches, and get ready to survive this. Because who knows how long it takes. Mike, how long did it take for Rome to fall over?
Well, I mean, it depends. Like, when did it start, right? Like, officially it fell in 476 AD. I mean, you could say that it really started like when the Republic fell. And, so there's 500 years. Maybe it takes 500 years, right? It at the bare minimum, it took it like 200 years, right? So this is not a quick process, right? Like this is going to be going on for a long time. And you're right. It's we have not even begun to see the degree to which this like homosexual pedophile culture is going to affect the men of like who are boys, who are like, toddlers and boys and like children today. Like, imagine what it's like for guys in our scene. It's going to be so much worse in a generation because of, the culture that we're surrounded by, sort of thing. You're absolutely right. I mean, we could point to studies that say that like these studies that have been published like publicly and like, much to the chagrin of these people that like they have higher rates of pedophilia. It's absolutely a thing. There's no question about it. And this is something that we are going to have to deal with. And the reason why it's pushed in our culture is because men, is because homosexuality basically is a centrifugal force for men. It's a force that pushes men apart, because if you are, too close to your male friends, if you love another man, like when I say, I love this man, what do you think I mean? Right? Everybody thinks that it's homoerotic, right? To love your brother. Like there was something like where there was a picture a few years ago back when, it was like that latest US election when Biden was running against Trump, where there was a picture of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden hugging each other. And it was like, everyone was like, oh, it's gay. Oh, like, I fuck those guys. I have no love for either of them. The idea that a father and a son hugging each other is something gay is like, how far have we fallen as a culture where a man can't even hug his son without there being homoerotic overtones to it? That's disgusting. Absolutely fucking. There's no words for it. How disgusting that is, that people would think that. And this is exactly why homosexuality is pushed, is because it makes men afraid to love each other. It makes men afraid to cry for each other, to be close in that way, in that deep and abiding way that you see in the Iliad, where Achilles weeps for the death of Patroclus. And now, what is that interpreted as in academia? Supposedly, it's about butt stuff. Yep, those two were obviously gay for each other, right? No, this is exactly why that shit gets pushed, is because men who are close, who don't need to rely upon a nanny state to protect them, are hard to fucking rule. And that's exactly what these people don't want. So yes, it's a good tangent for us to talk about here. But the wider point, I take your point, where we don't know what other guys are dealing with, and we kind of can't know what other men, especially in the future, are going to be dealing with. So we do need to sort of like treat other guys with respect, sort of thing. And we need to be able to admit our flaws. And there is a bit of a, again, it's a kind of a shitty word, but it's this toxic culture in our thing where, if you admit to being wrong on something, if you admit to having character flaws, or if you admit to something like as Dave said, if you admit to being abused or something like that, it makes you suspect. It makes you untrustworthy. If you're wrong now, then if you're wrong on this, and you could be wrong on anything, sort of thing. And it just makes guys sort of back themselves into a corner, not want to admit their flaws, not want to clue people in about how, they could be accommodated because, I am on the spectrum, or for whatever reason or whatever. This is something that it's fucking terrible. You need to be able to tell guys that you have these problems. You need to be able to tell people that for me, for example, that you have a memory problem, and that you just need to be accommodating, right? Cluing people in, letting them know what your flaws are, is a very important part of getting along with men, forming bonds, and especially when it comes to your relationship with your wife or your girlfriend or whatever. Like, communication is so important in this respect. And it's also plays into the choosing your spouse, choosing your wife, choosing your girlfriend. You need to, she needs to be able to accept your flaws. And even better, if she can kind of compliment your flaws, right? Like, you don't want to have a girlfriend that's too different from you, that's night and day. But at the same time, if you're both on the spectrum, if you both have memory problems, if you both have ADHD or whatever it is, then that may not actually, you may understand each other, but it may not be the best match, kind of thing. There's a sense in which your partner needs to match you and not just be your twin, kind of thing, right? Like, a lot of, and it goes to a wider point as well, where a lot of guys get red pilled on sex differences, and they're like, oh, men think differently than women, or women are programmed because of evolutionary psychology to think in this way and everything like that. And then they just kind of expect women to think like men, and they kind of shit on them for not doing that, and for voting the way they do, or for thinking the things that they think, or reacting the way that they react to certain situations. And it's almost like you didn't learn anything at all. What the fuck, dude? If you really digest the, red pill of that women are different than men, very different. They have completely different psychology than men. You have to accept that they're women are just never going to think the way that you think, and that you have to be okay with that, sort of thing. So your wife, your girlfriend, has to, number one, accept your flaws. She should at least compliment your flaws too. And you have to understand that she is different. She has a different psychology. You have a different psychology than her, and that's okay. And that you don't expect her to just be a, man with no dick that's a little bit smaller. Mm-hmm. If you think this way, and again, it's hard to escape, but if you think this way, you're just going to have shitty relationships, and you're never going to have that beautiful symbiotic thing going on, where she kind of compliments you and you compliment her, and together you're actually much, much stronger than apart, sort of thing. So letting people know what your flaws are is really important. Now, I wouldn't lead with this when you're on a date, hello, nice to meet you, I have ADHD or whatever. I that wouldn't be the first foot that I put forward, but it is something that is you need to deal with that fairly soon in the relationship, sort of thing. And it could save you a lot of heartache, really, in the end. So, yeah, I mean, being being a person, being a person that is a functional human being, means dealing with your issues, and it means acknowledging those issues. And acknowledging your flaws means a kind of humility that is really healthy. When I survey what goes on in Telegram channels or whatever, there isn't necessarily a lot of humility. I don't really see a lot of that, because that isn't really what people are They're looking for strong leaders. They're looking for people who don't back down. They're looking for people who are uncompromising. But the fact is that, like, being conservative, and when I say conservative, I mean like in the best sense of the term. I don't mean being Charlie Kirk. I'm thinking more like Cato the Elder kind of conservative, like somebody who like really believes in tradition and understands it on a deep level. When you understand what conservatism is, fundamentally, it's just a kind of humility. It's a kind of epistemic humility where you understand that no matter how smart you are, you could be, Albert Einstein, Immanuel Kant, Plato, Aristotle. You could be any of these like super geniuses throughout history, and your shit fucking pales in comparison to the accumulated knowledge and wisdom of all humanity, or at least of your folk, of your people from the beginning of time. That you are just a small, small thing putting your stone on top of this gigantic cairn of knowledge and wisdom and accumulated culture, right? Like you have that humility. That is part of being conservative, and it's why we have the idea of Chesterton's fence, this like heuristic where, if you see a fence and you decide that you want to rip it down, the very bare minimum condition of being allowed to rip it down is that you be able to explain why it's even been put up in the first place. If you can't explain why this like social technology is there, then you sure as fuck ain't going to be allowed to fuck with it, right? Like you're not going to be allowed to rip down that fence unless you know why it's there. And the reason why is epistemic humility. I think that this is the fundamental the fundamental principle of conservatism in all of its best manifestation is this kind of humility. And on the micro level, on the individual level, dealing with your own shit, dealing with your flaws, dealing with your character traits is about acknowledging that and being humble enough to say, yeah, there's some shit wrong with me, but here's how I'm dealing with it, kind of thing. So there's nothing wrong with that I would much more trust somebody that I know is like upfront with that kind of stuff, upfront with themselves about it, than somebody who like, basically presents himself as like this perfect, wise and like intelligent person, when in reality, all of us have that shit. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah. No. No. I'm with you. But I do think it's just I don't know. And I think that part of it, what does the Havamal say? Havamal says the ill-mannered man criticizes all that he hears. A lot of times guys that are jump down people's throats and everything like that are just doing it because they're just ill-mannered, right? Don't surround yourself with people like that. Surround yourself with people that are willing to understand you. And here's the deal: is that this whole like pull yourself up by the bootstrap shit is liberal as fuck. It's liberal as fuck. We have this idea that making exceptions for people and contouring the way we operate for them is like pussy shit. That's liberal. It's the opposite, dude. The bootstrap shit. Everybody has the same expectations. Everybody has the same duty. One size fits all for everybody. That's the liberal fucking way of looking at it.
It's universalism.
Right? Tribalism is, this guy is different. This guy is different. This guy is different. We contour and we customize the way that we operate so that we all fit together. Everybody has a place. Everybody has a thing. Everybody moves in the way that we need to move. It's like,
that's what the caste system is about, isn't it?
That's what the caste system is about. This guy, he's naturally like this. So, let's have him do this. You know what I mean? Let's shape society. And when I say society, I mean the tribe. Let's shape how the tribe works so that this guy can succeed, right? This idea of, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I'm going to the top. If you can't keep up with me, fuck you. That's jerk off liberal horse shit. That's individualist horse shit. You know what I mean? We know that our ancestors didn't do anything of the sort. They made prostheses for people. You know what I mean? They made crutches for people. They made in the time that if this was a time we're talking, Bronze Iron Age, where having somebody that was crippled or having somebody that was old was not really the best strategy for survival, but they didn't give a fuck. They didn't leave anybody behind. You were part of the tribe. You're part of the family. If they loved you, they made exceptions for you, even if you were crippled, even if you were XYZ. Hell, fucking Ivar the Boneless, dude. They carried his ass on a shield. They carried him on a shield. You know what I mean? If that doesn't show that this idea of this bootstrapism, what is not historical, then I don't know what does. You know what I mean? It's not might is right, the strong survive, crush the weak. It's we love our family and we love our tribe. And no matter who they are, what their problems are, as long as it's not some evil rotten shit, if we make the exception. We make exceptions and we shape our society, we shape our world so that they can succeed too. Because rising water lifts all ships. That's just the end of the day. That's what it is.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit on our last episode on sports ball heroes, where like part of that is like one of the things that you learn playing sports, especially team sports, is that you succeed and fail together. That there's no I in team, and that is cliche. That it's like to a degree that's like almost it's banal, but it's true. It's fucking true, right? And like anybody who is sort of like red pilled on like the flaws with liberalism and everything understands that individualism is bullshit. That societies that are individualistic are weak and probably in a late stage of decay. Furthermore, not only are they weak, but they're probably sick and old. And then goes straight back to the idea of that everybody has to be Giga Chad, everybody has to be a Ubermensch, and that anything less is like a failure. And it's like, well, the problem with meritocracy, the fundamental problem with this like meritocratic like way, I mean, like look at who's like pushing that, right? Like who is the like meme tier fucking guy that's all about merit? Well, it's Jordan Peterson, of course, right? The problem with this like meritocracy where like only the person with no flaws is truly like belongs in the driver's seat kind of thing. The problem with meritocracy is that no society that was ever worth a damn was ever fucking meritocratic at all. Every society that ever did anything that anybody cares about, that anybody reads about in history, was nepotism from top to tail, right? Like it's people sticking together. It's people looking out for each other. It's people covering each other's flaws. It's a caste system that it takes all kinds, even if those kinds are not ethnic kinds. There's certainly personality kinds. One of the like traits that's the most beautiful and adaptive about Europeans is the fact that we are so phenotypically diverse. Like we express ourselves in many, many different ways, right? Like some of us are blonde, some of us are brunette, some of us are tall, some of us are short, some of us are intelligent, some of us are stoical, some of us are creative. Like no other ethnicity, no other like folk group other than like white people has this kind of like phenotypic diversity. And yes, it can be used against us, and it is being used against us because of our like natural trusting of people who look a little bit different than us. But it's also our greatest advantage as well. So yeah, it's being dare I say it, tolerant of other people's flaws and working with them, and forgiving guys their like shittiness, as people certainly have forgiven me for like forgetting things and forgetting people's names and stuff like that. this is what a tribe does ultimately. And to bring it back to the individual level, because, this is a podcast being listened to by individuals who are hopefully getting something out of it. I would say, sort of in drawing this discussion towards a close here, that ultimately, like, one of the most important pieces of advice that's been around forever, that is even inscribed, above the oracle at Delphi in Greece, going back thousands and thousands of years, is know thyself. This is the fundamental. This is wisdom, sort of at its most elemental. Is that you have to know who you are, know where you're coming from, know who your people are, know your own soul, know your own personality, know where you're strong, know where you're weak, and don't lie to yourself about it either, and don't lie to other people about it. You need to project yourself as you are, sort of thing. If you know who you are, that is the beginning of something. If you don't know who you are, then you will never succeed in life ever. So that is the sort of baseline of wisdom. And I think that in dealing with your flaws, that's kind of where you have to start. And you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be humble. You have to, you have to be honest. You can't lie to yourself about what your strengths and weaknesses are. And you can actually, if you really do know yourself well, you can turn these things. Sometimes you could turn a disadvantage into a strength. So yeah, hopefully guys have gotten a little bit out of this episode on that. And I hope I've given some practical advice about like my own dealing with this kind of shit. But ultimately you have to, it has to be bespoke for you. You have to customize it to your own situation. But, at the same time, just know that other guys are out there dealing with it as well. Even guys that are, supposed thought leaders in the scene we have our own shit too. So you're not alone.
Excellent. All right, so let's wrap it up here, guys. I appreciate all you guys tuning in. Hails and blessings to each and every one of you. This week I have the Focus Summer Hollowing, so we might not have a Culture Dads next week, but I will report back with the awesome time that I had, and I'll check you guys all there. If you're not signed up already, make sure you go to imperiumpress.org/podcast and sign up to the Gumroad so you get all the awesome perks and help support Imperium Press grow and blossom into the institution that they were born to be, so they may save the Western canon from those who wish to erase it. If you want to check out what I'm doing, go to thebizarchives.com and buy books. Bizarre Archives 5 is out now. You're going to love it. Buy it. Buy books. Buy Imperium books. Just buy books. You're going to love them all. So, hails and blessings to each and every one of you. I'll see you guys next time on Culture Dads. Age of Sword and Set.